Your orders, Commander.
Hello, welcome back to another Officer Spotlight. I'm the Smoking Cheddar. You probably already knew that. Before we get started, make sure you've got yourself a cup of tea. Make sure you've got yourself some snacks. These jelly beans are nearly gone. Now, we're going to be covering Percy today. She's not one of my favourite officers. But let's be fair. Let's see how we can use her for those of you who haven't watched these sort of videos before. I'll do a breakdown of every skill and give it a grade of 1 to 5. And then at the end we'll total the grade and we'll discuss a little bit about how we can use this officer. There's not really much that can be said, unfortunately, for Percy as an opening, because she is obviously going to be the first, if not for some of you, potentially the only officer you'll have awakened. So this may be useful to you, it may not be useful to you. Okay, to start off with, we will start with her awakened skill first. The reason being is because her awakened skill increases the tactical skill. So there's very little we can actually do, so we'll read through both of the standard and the awakened for it, and we will grade them separately straight off the bat. So the prep time is 8 seconds as a standard skill. It inspires her troops and deals damage 1200 coefficient to the enemy, and increasing her troops' firepower by 8% for 8 seconds, which means generally you're going to get about 1 or 2 seconds where you're not gaining that 8% firepower. So it's a 1200 damage coefficient. It is very low. It's outmatched by pretty much everything out there, and 8% firepower, to be realistic, next to some of the newer officers isn't all that great. Now, if we were comparing her when she first came out to any of the other officers, she's top tier. The game's 3 years old. They've added new officers. This is not that great. It's 1200. It scores a 2 because there's just 100 other officers. Well, there's 10 other officers that do this job tactically with higher damage coefficient. So it's going to score a 2. But we will now review the awakened version of it immediately before we do the remaining 3 skills. So it does the same as before, but it increases all troops within 2 map grids firepower by 8%. Now this, that means if Percy is active, she's awakened and she's garrisoned, all of your troops within your base, they're going to get an 8% firepower bonus. Very handy in a defensive situation. If you're out in the field, you're running an AG, or you've donated a unit to an AG where Percy is awakened, that's going to boost the AG. I think it's okay. I don't think it's great. It's definitely a 3. The coefficient is pretty low, but it's raised up a whole point by the fact you can just give 8% to absolutely everyone else within radius. So because nearly everyone's got her awakened, once you've done the main story at the beginning or the main challenges at the beginning, I just want to get the tactical and the awakened skill out of the way first. So her second skill is fortified. It's an offensive skill, and it increases the damage by up to 25% when this officer is garrisoned inside the base. So this skill is kind of useless when she is outside of the base, but inside the base, a 25% garrison damage increase for the unit that she's attached to is really nice. You can stick it on an ATG, a helicopter. You can filter into any unit that you need her to. That's going to be a 4 for that skill. Let's be fair, a 25% garrison damage increase is quite a lot. HP increase of the unit for her third skill, Charmer. It's a protection. It does up to 20% bonus HP. This is a great skill to train in on those tanks, on the MBTs. It's a great skill to train in on the infantry. It's very, very nice. 20% is pretty good. That is going to be a 3. It sits, I think, pretty neatly in the middle of the road next to some of the other officers. So you can get other skills like this, Hellish Training, which can be used on everything other than infantry and artillery, which do a 20%, but it gives you something extra. So it doesn't give us anything extra, it's nice in the middle of the road at 20%, it's a 3. Now, this skill, her fourth skill, Supply Line, it's protection, blast damage resist of up to 50%. Now, blast damage is something that the artillery does. It affects all of the units present on the screen in that map grid. So that's going to reduce the damage spill into other units on that map grid quite a lot. 50% is exceptionally high if you're running an infantry unit. This is a brilliant skill to train in on the aid or on the main even. If you're using a MBT or an SH to tank, again, this skill is brilliant. That is a 4 all day long. She gets a 3.2 out of 5 overall. Now, there's a few things I'd like to say about this officer. A lot of people seem to love her. A lot of people put her on absolutely anything that's going. That's fine. How would I use this officer very specifically differs from a lot of other people. I would only ever recommend Percy if you have a unit that you need to deal damage coefficient with that hasn't quite got to 1200 and does not provide you with additional special skills that you would otherwise need. So let me just, if I can just show you. Let's, for sake of argument, say you have Warrior Whiz. You're one of the lucky few that got Warrior Whiz, and Warrior Whiz is skill level 2 across the board. Skill level 2. So his damage coefficient is going to be in the range of about 600 at skill level 2 off the top of my head, give or take. Something like that, 600 or 700, so I think 750. Now, if you do use him with the reduced coefficient, you are getting a critical strike rating on the unit, and you're also getting the chance of resetting the target's load time, which is phenomenal, at the cost of the damage coefficient. Now, depending on how you use the unit in question, say it's a helicopter for example, and you're flying it out, you're attacking for like 1 or 2 seconds and then you're pulling back into the base, the damage coefficient isn't going to be needed. It's just not. You're better off training in the blast damage resist or the HP stat, or potentially even the garrison damage stat, depending on which helicopter you're using. Take another officer, Lady Justice, for example. Again, we've got a critical strike rating. We've got a firepower bonus that absolutely ranks up when you're inside your base or around your base in friendly turf. So again, if you wanted access to either of those, or perhaps you wanted to reduce the target speed with a damage coefficient at 700 for skill level 2 across the board, you might consider taking a rough cut of like 65% of your damage coefficient just to gain the speed reduction of 50% for 4 seconds on the target. So in these instances, I would say she's a good officer to use. Percy is a good officer to use. You're not utilizing special skills, you're not utilizing debuffs, you're just simply looking for an awakened officer that has over 1000 damage coefficient that you need to apply onto an enemy target, whether that be a base or a hostile target attacking your base. So say again, you know, 2 across the board, you might turn around and say, hey, I'd like to sacrifice this blast damage buff and then train in the special skill. Okay, you know, that works. You're getting 1200 in exchange for 750 being lost, but you're also losing 30% blast damage buff. So there are pros and cons to Percy. would I recommend Percy to you as a player? If you're a new player, almost certainly. If you're looking for a unit to deal damage out in the field, inside the base, she's brilliant on the back of helicopters, on the back of tanks. She's brilliant on the back of artillery pieces, and she does what she says on the tin. She's a versatile garrison support officer. But as soon as you start getting gold statues and you start awakening other officers, she's getting replaced. Make no odds of that. She's not in your lineup once you're in the mid-tier game to end-tier game. By that I mean you're regularly running L4s. You've got 4 or 5 awakened officers that weren't the free officers, her being one of them. The free officers also being Spanner, White Wolf, and Bloody Mary. So she provides you with an opportunity as a player to get some damage coefficiency on a board. If you were lucky enough to, say, get your AMX 30 really early on, because you just hit all those drops whenever you dropped a coupon and you just zipped right through, and you're now 70 million, you're joining silver, and now you're getting an 8.1 into the game, or an 8.0 into the game, or hell, even a 7.2 MBT into the game. She's a great officer then, you know. And like I said, it's not just limited to the tanks and helicopters. She's great on pretty much everything. I would not, however, place her on infantry. And the reason being is that although she is a versatile officer, if you are looking to use her because you're new to the game, or you've just got her awoken, or for whatever reason, she's going to deal 1200 damage coefficiency, and that coefficiency is derived directly from the damage stat of the unit. So the infantry typically have some of the lowest damage in the game, alongside these super heavy tanks. So when I say tanks, I mean things like the medium and heavy tank. I mean, you know, the artillery units, all of the artillery units. They're going to be dealing a lot of damage. The tank hunters that later become helis. I don't really think the light tank is a particularly good spot for her to be in. If that's all you've got, I mean, that's all you've got. I would not recommend you using her outside of early game. A lot of people put Percy way up there as one of the best officers going. She's middle of the board for skills in early game, but once you get into late game, she is not relevant at all. This is not a relevant officer. Miss Percy. Just the most vanilla damage officer you can find.
Cup of tea?
Yeah, cup of tea, love. Before I go, some of you have been messaging me both in-game and on various other social media platforms that you have seemed to have found me on. I'm not particularly hard to find on the internet. I do actually have a Discord. Believe it or not, it gets linked in the bottom of most of my videos. Not all of the videos, but most of my videos. And, you know, it's just I sit in there sometimes and play games. If you've made it this far into the video, then you're probably a regular viewer. If you have Discord, please read the opening page. Don't just click the link and then just think, oh, this isn't working. Read the page. It's not hard. There is a Discord. That way, if you have any questions, please just DM me through Discord, or just leave a message in my Discord general chat, or hell, if you see me playing Helldivers and you have Helldivers, we're always looking for new Helldivers. Or it is not, and my Discord for clarification is nothing to do with the HP and Salt Discord, which are the two alliances I'm affiliated with. If you are looking to join HP and Soul, do not contact me. I do not deal with recruitment. I simply make these videos for the alliances. Apparently, I've gained a couple of you guys following me over the last few months of me doing that. That's great. That's fantastic. We tried the whole recruitment thing through video. We've had bad experiences. We're not gonna do that. Please do not come to me asking me to join either Soul or HP, because I will just simply refer you to another officer in that alliance. Anyway, cup of tea.